more minutes, don't I?
I don't even need to take a break. There is a guy with a book.
You better get close.
Let's go, Charlie.
3 minutes? Good. Good. Good evening, everyone. I'm Charles Chapman. I'm president of the council. I'll be running the meeting. Mayor is out of town today. And before we begin the meeting, we're going to have an invocation by Tyler Gaines of Huntington First Church of the Nazarene, followed by Pledge of Allegiance led by Christy.
Let's pray. God of all wisdom and hope, we come before you today with gratitude for the opportunity you give us to serve our community. Would you grant us wisdom and discernment as we discuss and make decisions that will impact the lives of those we serve? Help us to act with integrity and compassion and a deep sense of responsibility. May our actions reflect your love and your grace, fostering unity and progress in our city. Guide our deliberations and inspire us to seek the common good, always striving to uplift you and one another. It's in the name of the Father, and Son, and Holy Spirit we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Tyler. Christy? Bring up the minutes for the previous meeting, July 9th. Do I have a motion to approve?
We need to do roll call first.
Oh, Christy would like to have a roll call. I am present.
Okay. Chapman, Brodigan,
Present.
Belton,
Present.
Funk,
Present.
Johnson. Here. Pike. Rensberger.
Present.
Thank you.
Okay, now we'll move on to approval of the previous meeting, July 9th. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Motion is second. Any further comments? Christy, roll call.
Chapman.
Yes.
Belton.
Yes.
Funk.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Pike.
Yes.
Rensberger.
Yes.
Brodigan.
Yes.
Okay, reports from committees and boards or commissions. I will defer my time to Tim Allen. He's going to talk. No, wait, we got to go around the table. Mr. Pike.
I like to defer mine to Tim Allen. No. I don't have anything here.
Okay, Dwight.
Don't have anything.
PJ?
Nothing here.
Todd? Nothing here. And
Just real briefly, we did have a public meeting on the HK Porter site. Things seem to be going well as far as we're concerned. Everything that is in our control is taken care of. Now we're just waiting on state and other agencies to kind of do their final checkpoints before we can move on to the next step. The group that we are partnering with seemed confident that we could get the buildings demolished. It's just a matter of how and when. So, but it's everything seems to be going well so far. So,
thank you, Andrew. Dave? Okay. Now we're going to have a presentation by our Director of Dispatch, Tim Allen. And we've already gotten through all the conversation about the Yankees. So
I'll save some time.
And I've got a handout to give you, so Tim, the floor is yours.
Good evening. Thanks for having me. Appreciate the invitation. I'm here to go over the 2025 budget, review it with the City Council. The actual final budget won't be done until, I think, the end of August, 1st of September from County Council. But most of our, at least in my case, most everything is pretty well set. And I just want to review it with you guys. I'll start by talking briefly about the way that dispatch is funded. We use two funds to pay our bills. One of them is the 1222. It's the Huntington County statewide 911 fund. It is all the money that we use out of that fund has to be approved by the commissioners. It has strict limitations about what it can be used on. Specifically, it's pretty basic. Salaries and wages can be paid. Benefits like insurance and things like that can be paid. Training can be paid with state 911 dollars and equipment. But the equipment has to be, I don't know how else to say this, it has to be, they can pay for consoles for our dispatch center because they don't move. And once they're installed, and they can pay for like a radio tower, and they help pay for some of that. They cannot pay for like the chairs that we use because those can move around. It's kind of the best way to describe it. And so each PSAP, which is Public Safety Answering Point, in the state of Indiana gets a disbursement from the state 911 office every month. That disbursement's based mostly on your population and the calls that you handle a year. And we currently get just under $33,000 a month, and then we budget around that. The other fund that we use is the PSAP Lit. It is controlled and it is allocated by the county council. There are no limitations to that money. Anything can be purchased with that. Obviously, everything is approved before we do purchases and as we budget. This is actually a local income tax that helps fund other public safety agencies besides us in the county. So the jail, sheriff's department, community corrections, those are the type of agencies that also get funding from that PSAP Lit. But that is just a brief recap of how we pay our bills and what these funds mean when you look at them. If you look at the 2 pages that I've stapled together, the first one is essentially the budget for the 1222 fund, the 911 fund. Between Kendall Mickley, our county council president, and Tom Wall, the commissioner's president, they work really closely together with myself to make sure that we don't deplete the 911 fund too quick. As we looked at the numbers a year or so ago, Kendall's a spreadsheet guy. I mean, he's pretty good at that stuff, kind of ridiculously good, actually. And he put together a spreadsheet showing what we budgeted out of the 911 fund in 2023 and played it out through till it was gone. And if we weren't careful, we could possibly run out of money in about 5 years or be working month to month out of the 911 fund. That's not a good feeling. And so county council and commissioners began working together to see how they could absorb more of the budget through the PSAP Lit and save the 911 fund a little bit longer. I will tell you on my end, I have reached out to State 911 Executive Director, and I'm organizing some other directors to ask for a change in that rate that the 911 fund draws from. So I left out that 911 fund the money actually comes from a fee that is charged to cell phone bills. It is relatively negligible. I mean, it's like $1.15 or $1.20, I think. And it hasn't risen for over a decade. And so we're not the only county or only PSAP that is concerned that they're going to run out of money because certainly things have gotten a lot more expensive in the last 10 years, and yet this hasn't moved a nickel. I know that about 8 or 10 years ago, state legislature said your counties need to have their own lit. You need to put together a public safety lit because this fund is not going to last forever. We know expenses are going up, but the state 911 office feels an obligation, honestly, to us, and it's a good feeling. The problem is that the legislators are not interested in raising that rate. In fact, I was told by the 911 director, state director, that the first thing they said when they met with them a few months ago was if raising the 911 fee is part of this conversation, that thing's dead on arrival. So I was disappointed, a little surprised, honestly. I mean, we haven't moved this thing for 10 years or so, maybe 15. I think that it's time, and so every time I can get in front of people, I say, if you have a chance to talk to our legislator, mention to them that, this is important, and it funds something really important. I mean, we obviously think the world of our dispatch department in dispatch, but it is important, and it's great work we do, and I think it's time for that to move. One of our strategies, just so you know, just also, that right now, our balance, I looked at the balance of the 911 fund, as it stands right now, we have $1,250,000 in there. So we can go, but we pay $500,000, we're gonna budget for next year almost. We get about $385,000 or so a year, when you look at it per month. So at this rate, we're obviously not gonna be able to sustain it forever. We've made it stretch, though. The concern now and the conversations we're beginning to have are we going by this, are we using the wrong strategy with the legislator? Maybe they think that they look at some of these totals in the funds and say, well, Huntington's got $1 million too. We don't need to raise this rate. Well, it's because we've been doing the right thing to try to save it. And maybe what we should be doing is spending it all. And so I'll just tell you that we are considering spending a little bit more this year than we have in the past. And certainly that's a different way to approach it. I'm not terribly comfortable doing it, but I'm not sure a better way. And so that is being discussed, but talk to your state legislators if you get a chance and mention this, and certainly I hope that they have some give in it. If you look at our budget, you can see we really didn't move much. The dollars stay relatively the same in the 1222 fund. I did raise, and I'm asking for more money out of the equipment, which is down towards the bottom. It's 44,100 equipment line, because our expenses in the equipment have increased pretty substantially. We always seem to have an extra $40,000 or $50,000 bill that we weren't expecting, and I've just gone back to the commissioners and asked for that money when we needed it. But I'd like to budget some of it now because we're having consistency in it. And so that's why that number's moved. Some of the other numbers that might have even gone down, I'm just trying to right size it. And we needed to see a couple of years before I could do that. So we're trying to get it back in line. We have approximately about a 4% increase, I think, in the 1222 from last year, which is, it's hopefully staying in the range we need to try to be really cognizant of the fact that we just don't want it to go up too quickly. Any questions about that 1222? And maybe you'll have some after I get done with the other one too, because it is kind of a combo meal here. The 4020 PSAP fund, you notice that my salary and my assistant director's salary is not in that budget. We decided to pay all the dispatcher salaries out of the 4020, and we are going to spend just under $1 million budgeted for 2025. It is our increase from last year to this year is small. Literally, I think only about 1.5%, because we've been really careful and again tried to right size some things in particular in this fund. Our group insurance, our retirement, and those two things in particular they budgeted a lot more money to them a few years ago, and I've just been paying attention to how much we've spent and just lowered it down. So obviously it makes me look better, but it doesn't really change what we really actually are spending. Any questions at all, guys, about the two funds? Happy to answer any. Sure. We have 12 full-time dispatchers. We actually have 11 right now, where we've been working one short for about the last 7 months. And here later, before I get done, I'll mention that we are hiring. I'm sure you've seen the advertisements around. Hopefully you have. And we have about 50 candidates. We're going to have to narrow that thing down. But a lot of them, I think, are just doing their deed to make sure that they can claim that they've applied somewhere, because they don't often show up when we have our testing day. We have 12 full-time dispatchers, and then myself and my assistant director. And we have 4 pretty solid part-time dispatchers, and a 5th and a 6th that a little sketchy as far as whether they're available, but they do good work when they're there. Sure. Any other questions?
I would just make a quick comment. Hold your thought, Todd. The mayor and I are part of the dispatch group. That group was formed when city-county dispatch combined many years ago. And part of that ordinance was passed. naming council president for city council and council president for county council as a member of that group, along with the mayor, a commissioner. Of course, all of those are the voting members, and that there are other members, all the fire departments, volunteer departments, all the police, everybody in the county can come to the table. Now, we have a core group that's there
Yeah,
consistently.
our board for this, for Huntington County Public Safety Dispatch is the mayor, Commissioner Rob Miller, council president, Charlie Chapman, county council president, Kevin Mickley, Kevin Kendall Mickley, Tony Johnson, fire chief, Corey Boxell, police chief, Chris Newton, sheriff, Brandon Taylor as representative for the volunteer fire departments, Bob Jeffers, thanks for the EMA director, and forgetting somebody, I think. Maybe not. 9 voting members, and then 1 non-voting member. It's IT director Joachim Abrahamson, and then obviously I'm. I think it's a really good representation of all of
Yes.
the entities in Huntington County that should have a say.
And we talk about the budgeting and the philosophy of the budgeting, and we have, not every meeting, but most every meeting, it will come up, and we talk about that, we talk about the staffing.
Right.
But it's a good group, and we always have good conversations. And it is very tech-driven. Tim is kind of holding it back, but whenever anything happens out there, an extra 50 grand can just pop into your budget unexpectedly because you need to update, and I'm sure you'll get to that, so I don't want to steal your thunder.
It's okay. Any other questions? Our expenses, we only have 14 people working. We have $1.5 million budget. Most of it's equipment and insurance and things like that. So we're thankful for the support that we get, honestly, from both councils and from the commissioners. I mean, the community in general is going to support dispatch. They're the ones they call. When they call us, we're the ones that answer. We're really proud of the fact that we are part of the solution for a lot of people, and we're part of the help. I mean, I can tell you, I'll just segue into something that I was going to talk about later, but one of the things that I think is really exciting is Huntington PD started this crisis intervention teams about a year ago. They got a grant to get it started. All the law enforcement officers in Huntington County were involved, fire departments, and dispatch. And it is a very, I think, creative solution to how you police. You know, not quite as aggressive, possibly. And in today's age, we need to be a little, we need to be aware that everybody's got a phone, everybody's got, a way to record things, and those things seem to happen more and more often, and so let's be careful how we treat people. And this crisis intervention, CIT, has been I think, a really positive thing that's happened, and it's not talked about much because they don't want to talk about it. Honestly, it's not for everybody to necessarily be involved with, but it should be something that everybody's proud of. And certainly the law enforcement officers in Huntington County have embraced it, and I think done a heck of a job. No more questions about the budget. I'll move on. I just have a couple other things because I was asked to give a little bit of a dispatch update. So I want to talk a little bit about, we are moving our 911 service from AT&T to InDigital. We are currently the only PSAP in Indiana that still has copper lines feeding our dispatch center. And they are the same copper lines that the first 911 call was ever made in Indiana. So that was in 1968. So as you can imagine, they're wearing out. And we're on Victory Knoll, and they have copper lines out there, same ones we had over at the Sheriff's Department. But they are actually beginning to fail. I mean, they have pairs, and I'll just admit, I'm not the telephone guy, but they have pairs that they use to hook up these lines. And we have had at least one pair fail every month for the last 9 months, probably. And so AT&T just shows up. We have 3 of these T1 lines come in, the pairs go to that. If one of them fails, we don't even know. Everything runs as it's supposed to. That's the whole idea. You have 3 of them so they can, because we don't have fiber. So fiber would be great because it's a lot more data can be handled. In this case, one dies, one of these T1s die. We don't even know. AT&T shows up. Hey, I'm here to fix that problem you got. What problem? So it's working like it's supposed to. But then the guys go down there and they fix it. And the last time they were there, they said, hey, by the way, you only got like 4 pairs left. So what's the plan? And AT&T has refused to admit that they cannot provide us fiber. They don't like using other people's fiber. They will not do like last mile stuff, which most companies will. AT&T doesn't trust in their equipment. And there is no AT&T fiber night. They got here late, so MetroNet's got all of it, or Comcast. And in Digital, who is the other provider of 911 service in Indiana, besides AT&T, has no problem working with other people and other companies. I finally, after about a year of pushing a little bit, now I'm pushing a lot harder on the state 911 director, we are on the agenda for the September meeting to move. And AT&T is, I guess, not happy about it. I don't really know the right way to say it nicely. I don't really care what AT&T wants. I'm a little irritated by their attitude, and I have been for a while. I've asked for lots of things reasonably, and they were unable to provide. And now here we are in 2024, and we are the only PSAP left in Indiana that doesn't have fiber. So we're going to be making our move. I expect it to be approved by the State 911 Board in September at their board meeting. At that time, Digital can take over, and they have already begun the process of building out to find out what kind of expense they would incur, which they've told me is not going to be much, because we have both MetroNet and Comcast on site. It's just a matter of bringing this stuff into our ductwork and running it into our server room, and it's done. The cost right now, we pay about $1,500 for the 3 T1 lines that we use for our 911 service. That will go down because we won't need that much. It won't fail as often because it's more efficient, more effective than copper. It will have its own backup because they'll use MetroNet as the primary and Comcast will be the backup. So if something would happen, it would just flip. There are so many things that are better. So I'll just stop and say that I'm happy to move on, and that's it's an important move for us. We handle about between 1,000 and 1,500 911 calls a month, and about 5,000 calls all total for a month in dispatch, and we need those lines to work. I mean, we need that stuff to work without worrying about it. And so that move is been a long time that I've been working on it, and it's I'm thankful to be near the end of it. I think we're going to get what we want. I mean, what we need. Any questions there about that move?
So when one of the current copper lines you have now goes down, it doesn't drop calls. It's just they're all
right
together.
They have a third. When we were in the old, I should have mentioned, when we were in the old sheriff's department, and we were upstairs there, we only had 2 T1 lines. And it carries like 1.5 meg of data. That's not much. I mean, it really isn't. But for when you're talking about what we do, that's okay. When we moved out to Victory Knoll, they gave us a third one. And that third one allows one of the other 2 to fail. We honestly, my understanding is we could probably still run on one if 2 failed. But they seem to be playing nice, and they fail individually rather than all together. But if they were to all fail, we don't have any backup to that.
Wow.
And now, AT&T responds quickly. We have fantastic techs. I have no issue with the AT&T techs that we have. My God, these guys show up in a moment's notice. They jump down, they run downstairs, and I mean, they're friends of mine now. I mean, I've seen them often. But they admit that this is never going to be a long-term solution, and that's what we're trying to get to. One of the things in particular, and I think I mentioned it in the notes, is the state's going to the next gen 911 is called I3, and that to be compliant, you have to have fiber. because it's going to bring a different level of communication in. We already we have text to 911 available, and that happens. And happens probably, maybe a dozen times a week. We get texts from 911. Young people in particular like texting better than they like calling. I3 is going to raise the bar a little bit and allow us to I don't really know how this is going to work yet, but they'll be able to share video. So you can text and they can actually, if they're on scene, they can be recording what they're having and send it to us. That is a big deal. I mean, that's really a big deal. I mean, that'll change the way we are able to dispatch. But we can't do it until we get the fiber. And being the last one left, I don't think it should take that long. And so yeah, it's a big deal. Any further questions on the move? We have a couple of promotions in dispatch. I'm sure you might have seen. Maybe we advertised them. Angie Shear and Hunter Truex are now supervisors. Angie's first shift and Hunter is second. The one that I wish to have be our third shift supervisor, she would not take the job. So I'm overseeing that still. But they've worked very hard and have earned this. If you know either one of them, you know that they are extremely talented and really professional, and have made us a better dispatch center with their presence. They will help me schedule training and make sure we can get that in. The state now has mandated training for dispatch 24 hours a year. We already have that handled for this year. But for example, this year we had active shooter training with the law enforcement officers in June. And then we also are part of the crisis intervention teams and handle some training in that as well. So it's nice to be able to reward some of our people for the work they do. And they are doing a heck of a job. And just last thing is we are hiring. So if you have somebody you think would be a great dispatcher, tell them to give me a call. You guys probably have my number. They can call me, text me, or email me. We will be having a testing day on August the 17th, which is Saturday. It's a couple weeks from this Saturday, where we test for just basic law enforcement knowledge, really. Honestly, it's not really anything too tough. And we also test for geography, because that's a deal killer. Honestly, we've had to let a few people go that were pretty good at the CAD, pretty good at everything, but did not know our county for nothing. And the only way if you don't know, it makes it tough to log the call. We're required to verify every address when we put it in for every call, whether it's intersection or actually a street or a residential address, because that's how you track it. And certainly we have plenty of places we visit often, and the officers often want to know, hey, I think I was here last week. You were. And it's because we can tell them that because that call's logged in under that address. And when you don't know our geography, man. Well, I mean, just put yourself in that position. If you were to dispatch in Allen County, what would you do? You don't know the place. I mean, I wouldn't know what to do. I know how to dispatch too, but I'd walk up there, I'd be scared to death. And so that geography test gives a little peek into what they might know or might not know. And honestly, you'll probably eliminate a few people. But we have 50 to choose from, and so we can't keep all of them. So, any questions at all, guys? Gals?
I would just like to say, working with Tim's been a pleasure. His enthusiasm is great. You know, his father was in law enforcement in Huntington. He was an actual dispatcher for the city before they became a combined dispatch. So he's got more than skin in the game. He's up to his armpits. And how all this works, has an enthusiasm for what he does, and runs the entire operation with a great deal of pride. So it's, as he noted, it can be a bit of an expensive enterprise because of the technology that's involved, and as it's fast changing, but he's kept us up to speed at every step along the way, and thank you very much, Tim, for everything you do.
I appreciate all your guys' support. Thank you.
Okay, next Bryn's going to come up and introduce the final reading, first and final reading for Resolution 9R24. Christie, would you like to read the header, please?
Yes. Resolution 9R24, this proposed resolution, if adopted, would update the Huntington County Multi-Hazard Mitigation Plan and authorize its submission to the Indiana Department of Homeland Security and the Federal Emergency Management Agency.
Good evening. Before Bob comes up and reads 196 pages to try to talk longer than Tim, I just wanted to kind of preface, I know that I sent you all an email with a link to the plan a couple weeks ago so that you had ample time to review it and the resolution. I've not heard any questions or comments from any of you with concerns. I did get, I guess, a question the other day about kind of why it's coming up and if that wasn't abundantly obvious. All plans have a shelf life, and the state and the Fed specify that the shelf life for this plan, the original one, or the previous one was done in 2018. It's 2024. It's time for a new plan. So Bob is here if you have questions. I'm sure he's got a little bit of a stump speech for you, and so I'll just pull the document up, and you guys can have at him.
All right, evening. Like Brent said, I'm Bob Jeffers. I'm the Emergency Management Director. I've been here about 8 years, and I've done this plan one other time. With me is Thomas Fuller. He's Deputy Director. He's been with the EMA for about 13 months. He's right out of school and eager to go. So the purpose of tonight is the update of the Multi-Hazard Mitigation Plan. And this plan is a 5-year plan, and Brent pointed out that it's been 6, but as long as you start on the plan before it expires, you get an extension. So I started on this June 1st of 2022. That was before Thomas was hired. And I submitted the intention letter, and then I filled out the grant information, sent it to the state, and they took 13 months to get back to me. But they did approve the grant, and it was for the amount of the plan, and the grant was $20,304. So with that amount, that's the amount I will pay the engineering firm, but the county had to come up with a $6,769 match, which is in kind, which means it's not cash, it's credit. Okay, so we did that through 2 planning team meetings. I had some really good participation from Huntington City on the planning teams. We targeted a representative from each town, representative from the county, department heads, fire departments, and city departments. And I got Kevin Krostoff from the city, Adam Ketras, Brent Kepner, Charlie Chapman, Tony Johnson, Andy Ellett, Cole Hacker, and Mayor Strick. So they participated in 1 or 2 of our public meetings and helped us organize this plan and put in information. So the way the match works is I get credit for each of them, $25 an hour. We had it all up on a spreadsheet, and we far superseded our $6,700 match, and we met that requirement. So this grant is actually what's called a BRIC grant, and that's Building Resilient Infrastructure in Communities, and it's a federal grant. So after we get this plan adopted by all the communities in the city through resolutions, it gets sent to the state, and then the state will review it. They have 30 days to review it, and then it gets sent to FEMA. FEMA has 45 days to renew it, and then I'll get a letter from FEMA. If they have any questions or corrections or concerns, they'll identify it, or they'll just flat out acknowledge the fact that they accept our plan and they adopt it. So what's that do for Huntington City? So it gives Huntington City the opportunity to recover financially after a serious disaster or severe weather event. It also gives them mitigation ideas to work on throughout the 5-year plan. And like Brent said, all plans have a shelf life, and this one's just 5 years. So those of you that had an opportunity to look at the plan itself, it's just mostly the first 97 pages is what you need to read. Then there's a big bundle in there of acronyms, and FEMA and IDHS uses a lot of acronyms, and that's why I explained what BRIC stood for. Yeah. Anybody got any questions so far?
There'll be a test later.
Mm-hmm. I'd be glad to answer anything. Thomas, you got anything you might want to add? All right, Thomas referred to this at one of our town council meetings as like an insurance policy in case a disaster occurs. So by adopting the resolution tonight, or whenever it gets adopted, if you need more time, I understand, that makes Huntington City eligible for disaster relief. And sometimes that comes in the form of small business loan, where if you're paying 6% on your house right now and your roof gets taken off, small business loans can be as low as 1 or 1.5%. Am I correct? Yeah, you're in the banking. Yeah. So the federal government helps out a lot on that, and the people I work with from FEMA and IDHS say that could be a great thing. It could be a blessing, you know, to help you out that much and recover your losses. And what FEMA will do is they'll build back to what you had. They won't build back something that's $100,000 more costly. They'll just give you what you did have and help you finance it. Okay, Brenda, did I miss anything?
The only other point, in addition to the availability for disaster mitigation and recovery funds, is this helps the city earn points in our community rating system for flood insurance policies. So because we're able to score higher class in the CRS, and this plan is a part of that, and a matter of fact, it's a prerequisite for certain class levels. That in turn lets folks who have federally backed mortgages and have a mandate to have flood insurance, it allows them to save up to 15% off on those flood insurance policies in the city just because of this and other things that we do to that. So it would be my recommendation the council move forward with the adoption this evening, as long as nobody has any questions or concerns or needs more time, as Bob said.
Thank you for the work. I know that it's not always recognized by the community, but no doubt one of the mitigation issues that came up in previous plans is the occasional flooding that we've had. And if anybody's noticed, we really haven't had any serious flooding for a while, and knock on wood. But I think some of that is because things were recognized and identified by doing these plans, and then action was taken to mitigate it. So now we can rewrite the plan knowing that some of those things have been corrected. Of course, there's always issues that come up that we have to look at. But yes, I was impressed. The meeting that I attended, everybody in the county came, brought their ideas, were very attentive, and it was a great meeting. Bob, you run a good show, so thank you. Anything else?
I have one more thing.
Okay, good.
So, something mainly for the public also, this plan is on the county website and the city website. So Kevin helped us out by doing that. So for the best way to understand this plan is to just read the executive summary. It gives a brief summary about this plan, so you don't have to go into detail the whole plan. It just gives a really good idea of the
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. We done?
That's it.
I didn't know if she read the resolution yet or not.
No.
Need a motion.
Yeah, we'll get a motion here to approve. Christie
moved.
read the
Second.
summary. I have a motion and a second. These guys over there are fast.
Fast. Belton.
Yes.
Funk.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Pike. Rensberger.
Yes.
Brodigan. Chapman.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Have a good evening.
Yes.
Take care.
You got it done quicker than Tim. Okay, first and final reading of Resolution 10R24. Christie.
Resolution 10R24, the resolution of Common Council of the City of Huntington, Indiana, authorizing the investment of public funds pursuant to IC 51395. Whereas the City of Huntington, Indiana desires pursuant to IC 51395 to allow banks outside the political subdivision to submit quotes on public funds certificates of deposit. Now therefore pursuant to IC 51395, the Common Council of the City of Huntington, Indiana hereby authorize the investing officer of the city to invest in certificates of deposit of depositories that have not been designated by the local Board of Finance but have been designated by the State Board of Finance as a depository for state deposits under IC 51395. This authorization expires 1 year after adoption date pursuant to the Indiana Code. We have an investment wealth management through Baker Tilly, who is our financial advisor, but they have a wealth management side, and we have an investment person there. And he reminds me every year we have to get this approved so he can bid out once those CDs come available. And he does do the local banks, and we do use Lake City as our pass-through because they are on the state depository and we have to have them on the list. But yes, so, and then they bid out the local banks and maybe some others that aren't local. Okay?
Do I hear a motion to approve? I have a motion to second. Any questions for Christie? Christie, roll call.
Funk?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Pike? Yes. Rensberger?
Yes.
Brodigan?
Yes.
Chapman?
Yes.
Felton?
Yes.
Under miscellaneous, we have a Plan Commission appointment. And we have 2 names to consider. Bren?
So after your last meeting, with the help of Rhonda from HR, I sent out an email to all city employees, as well as posted at the time clocks, soliciting interest for city employees to fill that spot, which is, as I stated before, a requirement of being appointed to that particular role on the Plan Commission. And so 2 folks did contact me before the deadline that we had. And so those are Josh Roseberry from the Street Department and Kyle Felke from the Parks Department. And so those are the names I've got for you. I provided you in the email or in the memorandum that came out with your packets, contact info in the event that you had questions for them or anything else. I'm not sure what if any, steps you guys need to take, or if you're okay with making a selection, that's fine. Let me know what you want to do.
Well, I don't know either one of them. Does anybody else have any feelings about any of the candidates?
Yeah, I happen to know both of them, just because I used to work with both of them. Both great guys. Both have been here for a while. Josh has been here about probably 15 years, give or take. Kyle's been here, well, I guess about 5 years for Kyle. You know, both are dedicated to the city in their own departments. If I had to make a recommendation, I think I would probably lean towards Kyle Felke. I think in the shorter time that he's been here, he's probably been a little more ambitious and worked his way up to the Parks Department foreman already within 5 years, and he lives in the town, so he's going to be directly impacted by whatever decision he makes. Nothing against Josh Roseberry, but just living outside of the city limits, I think that would be a little bit of a you know, just a little bit disconnected from this appointment. Just be probably a little healthier fit from Kyle Felke, in my humble opinion. So,
Does anybody have any other thoughts?
I don't know either of them, but I trust Andrew and I'd take his recommendation.
I concur.
then I guess I make a motion to appoint Kyle Felke to this commission.
Second that.
Have a motion and a second. Any other conversation? Christie?
Johnson?
Yes.
Pike?
Yes.
Rensberger?
Yes.
Brodigan?
Yes.
Chapman?
Yes.
Felton?
Yes.
Funk?
Yes.
Thank you.
Bren, would you let Josh know that we
I will certainly,
appreciate
I'll
him?
let them both know, and I'll let Josh know that if he's interested still, that certainly vacancies
opportunities, yes.
come up all the time.
Okay. Anything else for the good of the order? Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen.